waiting room. Okay, guys, so you all know who I am. I'm Elaine Harvey from Lullababy SOS, and I'm not going to bore you with all of that. Basically, we are here today to talk about toilet training in 1 week. Okay, now I know that that sounds pretty crazy to think that you could possibly do toilet training in 1 week, but what I want to tell you is that if you get the foundations right, and if you don't think about all the preliminaries are as actual toilet like as the actual transition from undies or from nappies to undies. If you kind of think that if we get all these foundations right early on, before even attempting to move them into undies, you are going to make that transition like that. It is going to be so smooth. It's going to be so easy. And it's going to be like, oh my God, we're so ready for this. My child is so ready for this. And you're just going to really enjoy that process. Okay. So let me move on here. Over here. Thank you.
And the private secretary sits back there. We lead Sue into the library.
Sorry. This is not doing what I want. I'm going to come back this way.
You do the office.
Okay, I'm just going to come back a wee bit because it's just scrubbed over on me. Okay, so this is the whole thing about me, but generally, basically what I want you to know, what the most important thing to know is, I've been working with parents and families and babies for the last 20 years, and there's lots of things that I see that work and lots of things that I've seen over those years that doesn't work. And here, this is really about me helping you and telling you all the things that I've seen that have worked when we're starting toilet training with our little ones. Okay. And like I just said, if you set the foundations right in the beginning, then it doesn't feel like you're training your little one to use the toilet, and it doesn't feel like it's a big ordeal. Okay, so the key to this is preparation, planning, and timing. Okay, so hang on, I'm just going to mute. What have I got on? There we go. I think everyone's good. Okay, cool. So first of all, when is my child ready to start toilet training? Okay, most kids will start showing some interest in toilet training, but that doesn't necessarily, or in the toilet, by around 18 months of age. Okay, this doesn't necessarily mean that they are ready to start toilet training or start sitting on the toilet and wearing undies all of the time, but a lot of kids will start showing interest in the toilet and wanting to sit on the toilet or wanting to sit on the potty or watch you doing wheeze from around 18 months of age. They might even start recognizing the sensation of doing wheeze from around 18 months of age. Okay, it does tell us that around this age they are developing that little bit of interest and understanding of their bodily functions and where wheeze and poos come from. Okay, most toddlers, one of the biggest things I found over the years is that a lot of toddlers will show like a really big interest in toilet training. Some girls can be about 15 months, but on average about 18 to 20 months. They're like showing all the signs that they're interested in toilet training, and you think, oh wow, okay, let's strike while the iron's hot and let's get them into undies and things like that. I will say that when they do it at about that age, it's very short-lived. It's about 2 weeks, and then they go, can't be stuffed with that. Give me my nappy, so I'm just going to piss all over the floor. Thanks very much. Okay, and it's kind of like when your kids start rolling. Yeah, they'll roll over at 3 months or at 2 months, 2.5 months, and you be like, yeah, my kid's awesome. And then they go, I'm not doing it again for another 3 months. Thanks very much. But that's the same with this toileting. It's like they, for whatever reason it is, they just get interested in it at around that 15 to 18 to 20 months realistically. Have fun with it. Don't put pressure on them. Start practicing climbing, things like that. Go with their lead on that, but don't expect that you're going to transition them into undies. Lots of people will think my kid's the exception, but I'll tell you, I find very few of them are the exception. So just know that that will be short-lived. But that's a perfect time to start helping toddlers, starting to build those foundations with them. Okay. The other thing I will say is that statistically, girls tend to show interest in toileting much earlier than boys do. Okay. And I generally find that girls are I do, and boys are mummy do, mummy do, mummy do. So boys are just so much busier. They want to get on with everything, and they're too busy playing with trucks and things like that. And you know, obviously some girls are like that, but girls seem to be able to recognize those sensations a little bit earlier than boys. Statistically, I think it's about 70% to girls to the 40% of boys. Okay. Most girls will transition by about 2.5, and boys may be slower. Some boys may be about 3, but again, some of them might just be 2. But you can see that if I'm saying most of them is about 2.5, but we're starting building the foundations from around 18 months, you can see that when that developmental readiness happens, they are so ready and they've learned all the things first. Okay. So some of the signs that your toddler is ready to start toilet training is they can hold their wheeze and poos for a little bit longer. Okay. One of the things you might notice is that when you get them up in the morning, you might notice that they've got a really heavy, warm, wet nappy, like that's just been done. You know, oh, okay, so you're getting some more bladder control. I can tell that you're being able to hold that wee a little bit more. Sometimes when they wake up from their nap, it's like just as they've woken up from their nap, then they've done a wee. Okay, that's a good sign that they're starting to have that bladder control. It's like as soon as I wake up, I'm starting to, I'll let my wee go. I still don't know how to hold it that long, but now you can see that that bodily function is there, that they're able to hold it that little bit longer. Other early signs are that they, especially for kids who are a bit sensitive about their pose, they might go off to a corner and you'll be like, oh, Charlie's doing poo, he's in the corner. Or you know, or that there's a particular face that they make when they're doing a poo. And they're nice early signs that they're starting to show interest, and this is when you should start laying some foundations. Okay. The other thing, some more readiness signs are that they're looking uncomfortable when they need to go. So again, you know, when they're playing and they're like, because you know that they need to do a poo, but they're like, I don't want to do it right now. And sometimes it's the consistent timing. Okay, like I do a poo first thing in the morning, or I usually do poo at around 5 o'clock at night time. So start monitoring their bowel movements and seeing whether or not there's a particular-ish time that they're going to go for a poo. And that will really help as they go later on, when you're knowing that they're doing it, to know when they're doing a poo, and when you can kind of encourage them into the bathroom to do that poo. Okay, last sign is they just don't like being in a wet or dirty nappy. Now I know there's extremes in both of those, that there are some kids that are like, I couldn't care less, and there are some kids that are like, I did the tiniest wee and I need to get out of it. So we're going on the whole generals here. Okay. Okay, so the key to success is the foundations first. So I've said this already. So we know that if you're learning how to drive a car, You have to pass your theory before you can even get into the car. And then when you get into the car, you have to have somebody supervising you the whole time. And then you go through the next step, and then you go through the next step. Nobody's going to put a teenager into a car and go knock yourself out. Okay. And it's the same thing with our toddlers. We're not going to put them in undies and expect them to get it. Okay. Because they won't, and it will end up, you'll get frustrated. They will sense your frustration. They will back off, and it will make it harder, not easier, if you keep going backwards and forwards with it. Okay. I also find that if you don't have these foundations first, you're not toilet training your child, you're toilet training yourself. Okay. And what I mean by that is, so these things your child needs to do. They need to be able to climb up onto the toilet, turn around and sit down, and then climb off it. They need to be able to move the step from the toilet to the sink, climb up, turn the tap on, wash their hand, and then get back down again. They're going to need some supervision with it, but they need to know how to do these things. They should be able to reach the tap, reach the soap, be able to turn them on and off, and they need to have some practice at putting clothes on. Okay. If they don't do that, if you kind of catch them at a point where they're interested in toileting, you're going to be like, oh, Charlie, you need a wee? And they're like, wee. And you go, okay, come on. And we bring them in and we pull their nappy down, and then we lift them up and we put them on the toilet, and we take them off the toilet, and then we pull their knickers up, and then we go over to the sink because we have to teach them how to wash their hands. So we take them over to the sink and we put them up on the sink and we wash their hands, we take them down, and off we go. And 20 minutes later, we do it again. Okay. I guarantee you're going to have a sore back within 2 days, because you're having to do all of those things. Okay. But if between all of your kids, we've got some 18 months old, 13-month-old, we've got some 2.5, we've got some late ones for the 3.5, and I will talk about the only poos and my nappies as well. Okay. So if you're starting with your 18-month-old or 16-month-old, take your time. You might do the bits of these every day. You might, every time you take them to the bath, you take the nappy off and you help them up on the toilet, and they sit down on the toilet, and then they get down off the toilet, and then they jump into the bath. Okay. And then slowly you start to add on a couple more of these things, because initially when you're starting to do these things, you're going to need to do a lot of things to help them. You're going to need to help them climb up, help them climb down, help them move everything. If you've got a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and you're like, Elaine, I need to start this like in the next month, in the next 4 weeks. Okay, that's cool. All right. Don't rush the nappies. Wait until they've mastered these skills first. But you're probably going to have to do all of these things 3 or 4 times a day so that they're getting used to that. So I would say when they get up in the morning, take the nappy off, bring them into the bathroom and do all of the things. And then for the lunchtime nap, do all the things before the nap, do all the things after the nap, do all the things when they're going to bed at the beginning of the night. Okay, oh, sorry, not when they're going to bed, when they're jumping into their bath, because usually you turn the tap on, they'll go for a wee. Okay. Now, the reason I'm saying that we need to do all of this is because if they get all of this, then when they move to undies, it will just make sense. It will just be it'll just be a really easy transition for them, and there won't be that many mistakes. So Stephanie's asked me, what about a potty? And that's a really good question, Stephanie, and I'm sure some of you are all thinking about that as well. I'm not a fan of potty training, and the reason I'm not is because if you potty train, then you need to toilet train afterwards. Okay, so I don't mind having a potty around. Okay, so typically I would have a potty in the boot of my car, so that when they're at that point when they're transitioning, then if they need to do a wee or a poo, so say for example, you've transitioned them into the undies, it's after the first couple of days and we're having our first venture to the shops without a nappy on. I might bring the potty in the boot of the car because we might get into the car park at the shopping center and they're like, oh, mommy, I need a wheeze. And you're like, I'm not getting to the mother's room without you weeing yourself. So I just pull the potty out, put it on the floor, let them do a wee in the potty, and then pour it under the car. Pour it under the car, put the potty back into the car. They feel good about themselves, and no stress. Okay, there's nothing worse than a 2-year-old walking from the lounge to the kitchen going, Mummy, I did a poos. And I also think that it's, when they're doing wheeze and poos in the potty and you're picking the potty up and you're pouring it into the toilet and you're having to disinfect it and then they're sitting on it again, it's just not very hygienic. Okay, so if you can do the foundations without using the potty, I think that it really benefits everybody. Okay, what I might do is I might run all the way to the end here. Okay, so what I like to have is one of these toilet seats. So these are the family toilet seats. Are you all aware of these? These are, you can get these guys in Bunnings, and I've added links. You've all got a PDF that I've sent, and I've added the links in that PDF for you all, okay? But these family toilet seats are fabulous. You've got to think, if you've got one kid, you're going to have a little bum on your toilet for about 5 years at least. Okay, if you've got 2 kids, you're probably going to have a little bum on your toilet for 8 years. Okay, so it makes sense to have a decent toilet seat that doesn't fall off, that doesn't move. So I see a lot of people with those, do you know the toilet seats that have got the ladders attached to them? And I see lots of people with those ones, or the spongy toilet seats, which are really unhygienic. But I find that if the ones that have got the ladders attached to them, when the babies are climbing, when the toddlers are climbing up those ladders, as they turn around, the ladder kicks a little. Often it will kick and the toilet seat will move a little bit, and then they don't like getting on it. They don't feel safe. So they're like, no, not doing it. Okay, I much prefer to have a step ladder like this. So you can actually see this is quite tall, these two-step stools, because I actually want your little one's feet to be able to rest on them, kind of like a squat step, because when they're doing a poo, they really want to have their feet grounded. Okay, if their legs are dangling, they're not going to like it very much. So if you can get a step that comes up high enough that they can rest their feet on top, that's what you really want to do. Okay, and then my other like golden ticket is these puppy wee mats that you get at Kmart. They're like, I think they're about like, that's for 100 pack. For a 20 pack, I think they're about $8 or something like that for a 20 pack. These guys are fantastic for your car seat and for your pram, so that if they have an accident, you don't have to clean your whole pram, or you don't have to strip your car seat out of your car because you got one of these in the car seat. Okay, so they're a really handy little tip to have. And then lots of cheap undies. Okay, you want the multi-packs of undies. Now, I love to play with undies before officially starting toilet training as well. but don't get them the pretty and the cool undies for playing with. Okay, I want to save the good. I want to save the goods for when they don't want to poop in them. Okay, but you can get like the Terry Towland ones at Best and Less. You can get those ones that they can have in their play box that they can play with and things like that. But these like novelty underwear, they're the ones that I want to give them when they don't want to have accidents in them. Okay. So next little bit. So we've gone back to there. I'm just going to move forward. Any other questions on that? No? Cool. Awesome. Okay. So I am going to run into this a wee bit. I'm going to run into this information a little bit more. So your toddler, again, can climb up and safely turn around on the toilet. That typically takes them, to get really confident in it, probably takes about a month. Okay. Moving their step, depending on how dexterous they are, that can be anything from like a couple of days to a week. Okay. But again, because they have to be able, this is another reason I want nice lightweight ones, so that it is really easy for them to move it from the toilet to the sink, or you buy two. Okay. And we want to practice hand washing with them as much as we can. Hand washing is probably the most fun, the most messy, and the most annoying bit for you guys, but it has to be something that they do get good at and that they can do. Probably, actually, it's probably the least independent one that they'll do. Okay. And then they need to practice dressing themselves mostly. Now, obviously, the reason I'm doing this workshop at this time is because this is really the perfect time to be, but over the summer, to be doing toilet training with your little one, like whether or not you start in the next month or two, or you start after Christmas or around Christmas, or you start in February, just while the weather's warmer. They can go around the back garden in their undies. They can go around in nice light dresses, or, you know, easy board shorts that they just rip off and things like that. So nice, easy things to pull up and down. Okay. And they need to have successfully done 20 wees in the toilet and at least 10 successful poos in the toilet before the official start date of transitioning from undies, or from nappies to undies. Okay. The reason that is, and honestly, this is so easy, because you will find that after a couple of days of putting them on the toilet at their nap times and at bath time, as soon as you turn the tap on for the bath, they'll do a wee. So the 20 wees, even if you spend 30 days doing it, you're going to get 20 wees in the toilet. Okay, easily. Okay. The poos are the big issue, because if they're not ready properly for toilet training, if you haven't laid the foundations right for toilet training and we've rushed into it, then they will refuse to poo in the toilet. They might do it a couple of times, but then they'll go, no, I need a nappy. And they will only poo in their nappies. And if that goes on for too long, then it can cause issues with constipation and with anxiety around going to the toilet. And if they get particularly constipated, then it can cause even more anxiety and then more issues with bowel obstructions, because they're holding their bowels so much to stop until they get their nappies. And it just causes so much more stress all around. So again, I don't want to move them into undies until they're comfortable with both doing wees and doing poos. Okay. Aaron said, hang on, I just have a drink. Yes. So Aaron, yeah. When you're starting the foundations, it's like the theory. It's get the foundations right. So then the official transitioning from nappies into undies will take you about a week. Okay, if even, you'll probably have a couple of accidents, you might have 2 or 3 accidents in that first week, and then in the next month you might have the occasional accident. But if you get the foundations right first, it's just a no-brainer. It's just a no-brainer. Okay. Does that all make sense, everybody? Can I get some head shakes, or can I get some yeses in there if that's making sense to you guys? Awesome. Okay, cool. Okay. Once all of these skills have been mastered, now the fun starts. Okay. So once they've mastered all of the foundations, you can start planning to do your toilet training officially. Okay, so plan the date. Now that might be that you turn around on Thursday and go, I think we're ready. Let's go get undies on Saturday, and or let's go get undies on the way home from work on Friday, and we'll start on Saturday. Okay, that's absolutely fine to do that. It doesn't have to be like, okay, like on February 14th, that's when we're going to start. You can be flexible, but what I mean is I don't want you to just get up in the morning and go, okay, we're going to do it today. I just want some planning and preparation in there. Okay, aim to be home or close to home for the next few days or a week. Okay, but that doesn't matter if they go to daycare. You just get daycare involved. Daycare are fantastic at getting involved anyway, because you will probably find even before you start toilet training them, daycare has already started toilet training them. Daycare are already going, yeah, we put them on the toilet for nap times and after naps, and you're like, oh, what? Oh shit, okay, I better start toilet training. You don't have to, just because they're setting those foundations. You're like, great, we're both on the same page. This is awesome. Okay. The ideal time to start is when your child is recognizing and tells you that they need to go toilet. Okay. Or that they want to take their nappy off and they want to go to the toilet. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do that all the time either. Realistically, they're probably going to tell you that, oh, I need a wee, maybe twice a day, and the rest of the time they're too busy doing other things, and that's okay. All right. But that's a pretty good time to start saying, okay, let's do this. Okay, aim to have at least a few days at home where you can just make that transition. Okay, take them shopping for the cool undies. Okay, remember we've had the terry towel and ugly undies. Now we're getting some cool undies. Okay, run low on your current nappy supply, and you may change the color or the brand or the style of nappies that you're currently using. So that way then, when we do make that transition into undies and they've got the cool undies, when we put a nappy on them at nighttime, then we don't want to confuse them, because you're not going to get them toilet trained at nighttime at the same time as you're going to get them toilet trained during the day. You can do the daytime first, and then the nighttime will happen next. Okay, and the nighttime they'll start to naturally drop off themselves anyway. And once they're in a big kid bed, then it's a much easier transition. So if your little one's not moved into a big kid bed, don't even worry about it. But to avoid confusion with your little one, and they're going, no, I wear undies, and we're going, oh no, these are special night ones. We put these on because you're sleeping, and you can't tell me that you need a wee when you're sleeping, can you? So we wear undies in the day, and we wear these special ones at nighttime. Okay, and that way then they kind of get that undies are daytime, and that that the nappies are for nighttime. Does that make sense? And Mackenzie, does that make sense with your toddler in the cot? Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So on the first day of making the transition, agree to it with your little one. This doesn't need to be very serious or anything like that. It's like, okay, buddy, are we going in undies today? Or are we going in nappies? And we're going, okay, we're going in undies. We're going to be a big boy. Okay. So we start the day with underpants. Okay. Monitor your little one's water intake. Okay, typically I'll put a silent timer on my phone for 20 minutes and stick it in my back pocket. Okay, so if they've had some water, probably about 20 minutes later, they're going to start needing to go for a wee. So I don't want this alarm going off, triggering them. But when I feel the vibration, I might just go, and it's more for your reminder. Might be like, hey, Charlie, you need a wee? And let him tell you or let her tell you whether or not they need a wee or not. Okay, if you can see the signs, hey, buddy, come on, let's go. We'll just go sit in the toilet. We'll see how we go. Okay, and we'll bring them into the toilet. So sometimes it might be some gentle encouragement. Sometimes they might be able to tell you. Okay, so you need to give them that little reminder. Generally, for that first week with the water, the easiest way to think about it is I give them water with each of their meals. So at brekkie, I give them water. At morning tea, I'll give them water. At lunch, I'll give them water. Afternoon tea, they get water. Bath bedtime routine, they get it. The dinner time and bath bedtime routine, they're getting the water. Okay. But if they're just like drinking like little bubbler, like going and just having a sip here and a sip there and a sip here and a sip there, the idea with the first week is that we are trying to help them recognize that bladder control. So we're trying to let them fill up a bit more and then let go, fill up a little bit more and then let go. Okay, so if they're just having lots of little sips here and there, it will make it a little bit harder for them. Not much, but it also just makes it easier for you to monitor and help give them gentle reminders that it's time to go, that do they need to go toilet. Okay, dress them in loose fitting clothes. Oh, sorry, I can see an error there. Yeah, dress them in loose fitting clothes. Okay, this is really easy for girls. Boys, they are a little bit because they've got shorts that they've got to pull up and down. But I think board shorts are great for boys, or just shorts that have got elastics on the end of them. And obviously nudie time. If they want to have nudie time is awesome. And there's nothing cuter than little toddler bottoms running around the house. Having a box of toys or books by the toilet. Now, I'm a big fan of the libraries, and I'm a big fan of getting lots of books from the libraries, but I'm not a fan of getting books from the libraries for toileting. Okay, so just have a couple of books, like, you can buy some. I think one of my favorite books is like the Who's Poo's Who book. And, Harvey who farts a lot. And there's so many fun books about bodily functions where the kids can have a lot of fun reading those books while they're sitting on the toilet. Okay, but definitely have some things there and that they can play with while they're sitting on the toilet, and to help them entertain themselves while they're sitting on the toilet. Okay. When they when you are going through it, it's really important that you praise them for how well they are doing. And you can use a sticker chart. You can use a little hand stamp. And on the first day, they might actually have stamps the whole way up their arms, and that's fine. But sometimes that helps just to give them that visual representation of how good they're doing. Okay. I do avoid bribery with chocolates or food in these instances, but it's not the end of the world if there's a little bit of bribery in there just to help them, but it's something that we don't want to do long term. Okay, and I tend to find sticker charts and hand stamps tend to work quite well for that, whereas I find that foods and toys just tends to drag on that little bit longer, and that's why we don't want to do that sort of stuff. Okay. Managing accidents with them is obviously, we all get it. We all get that we don't want to recommend our children for having accidents. But I remember reading a statistic about the rate of reported child abuse in the United States was at its highest around the periods of toilet training. And I thought, what a horrible thing that is. Okay, so they are going to have accidents, and I know that nobody here is coming here trying to learn about introducing potty training in a beautiful way is going to be anywhere near categories like that, but it does happen, you know, where it obviously statistics are there saying that people do get stressed when they're toilet training because of accidents, but don't get stressed out about it. It's a really good idea to have a little caddy, you know, like a little, you know, like your cleaning caddy that might have some kitchen towels, and it might have a roll of, you know, your disposable, your green waste box, you know, those green bags, a roll of those in there, and your spray of disinfectant. So when your little one has an accident, it's like, hey, Bobby, can you go to the cupboard? Can you go get the caddy first? Or go get the cleaning stuff first. And he goes and gets it, and he brings it over, and he gets the spray out for you. You spray it, mommy wipe it. Come on, we do it together. And that's great. It's okay. We all have accidents, and that's absolutely fine, sweetie. And just let them help you clean it up, okay? So have accidents and move on. Don't rush it, okay? If all the foundations haven't been laid before, I've mentioned earlier that we do have issues with that transitioning through and having setbacks. And one of the most common setbacks is that they will only poo in their nappies, or if they have these periods where they did really well for 3 to 5 days, and then they just went, no, not doing it. Stuff off, not doing it. And they just will point blank refuse to do the toileting in the toilet again. Okay, so we want to make sure that that we don't rush through that. Lots and lots and lots of practice. Okay, the more that they practice it, the easier everything becomes. Like we said, when we learn how to ride a bike, when we learn how to drive a car, we lay the foundations and then we practice, it will all get easier as we keep going. Okay, now I know that Louise, I know you've got and there's a couple of others who have asked about only wants to poo in the nappies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit these things, and any questions for troubleshooting, start chucking them into the chat, because we're going to come up soon to answering some questions. You will have the opportunity to just take your mic or take yourself off mute. And any particular questions that you've got, please just ask away. Okay, so I did jump into this a little bit earlier. Okay, so once you've gone through your first week of toilet training, like I said, I want you to stay close to home. I don't want it to be, obviously I don't want you to be stuck at home all day. But I don't want you to put them into situations where they are stressed out because they're having to hold wheeze too long in the car, or, you know, the toilet is too far away from them and it's getting them stressed out. So I just want you to be aware to give them that time in that first week, so that we are close to a toilet for when they need it. Okay. But we can't stay home all the time, so we have to get to the shops. So when we're going out in public, be prepared. So they're not going to be able to hold their wheeze for very long. They might be able to hold it for 3 or 4 minutes, you know, and that's great. But have everything packed in the car before you leave the house, and before you put them into the car, pop them on the toilet. Make sure that they've got an empty bladder leaving the house. Get to the shopping centre or wherever it is that you've got to be, and get to the parent room. That will be the first stop that I would do on that first day at the shopping centre. Is I would go to the parent room. If they tell you they need a wee before you get to the parent room, use your potty that's in the back of the car. Okay, but I'd get to the parent room. Remember to put your puppy wee mat in the car seat and in the pram, so that you don't if your accidents happen, that's fine. Go to the bathroom and then bring a couple of spare changes of clothes for if they have accidents, so that we very quickly just change and move on. Okay, lots of encouragement, lots of praise. Does that make sense for going out? Yeah. And if you're at a park or somewhere that there isn't a toilet very close by, boys are great at bushways. And girls get better at bushways, but I think girls just find it that little bit harder to do bushways than boys do. Boys absolutely love it. But try to encourage that, you know, if you need to do a wee, it's absolutely fine to come over here behind the tray and do a wee. If that's what we need to do, that's fine. One of the things on bushways that I would say is, if you've got boys, and especially if you've got boys and dogs, but if you've got more than one boy as well, is if they know that they can go and do a wee out in the back garden and nobody has an issue with it, they'll just go, Stuffy, I'm going out there, and they'll just keep running outside. So it's fine to do it occasionally, but try not to, if you're at home, try not to let your little boy run out and go toilet in the back garden with the doggy and things like that, because it'll just make things a little bit harder later on. Make sense? Any questions about when you're going out with toilet training? No? Awesome. Okay, what happens if you have little setbacks? So if you've laid all the correct foundations before officially starting toilet training, there shouldn't really be any setbacks. Okay, you'll have a couple of minor accidents, but that's it. There will just be accidents, minor bumps in the road. However, if your little one's not been 100% ready to make that transition, then you might find yourself going back into nappies. And this would put you on hold for a few weeks or maybe a few months. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, if you have spent, and I know lots of you guys have 2 to 3 year olds, okay, but if your little one does just absolutely point blank refuse, which is very unlikely now, because if you haven't already started the transition into undies, then, and you follow this method, then I doubt that they will have any setbacks like this. But if you have started before and you feel like you've gotten into a setback, then I would probably come back to all the foundations that we've just talked about and leave them in the nappies. Okay, they might be like, okay, no, I don't want to come out of my nappies. I don't want to come out of my nappies. So you might go, that's cool, buddy. Okay, but I would still do toilet every time he gets up and before naps. So in the morning, before a nap, after nap, a bath and bedtime routine, and I would leave him in his nappy. Okay. And what you will find is that a lot of the time the nappy will be dry. So you might only use 2 nappies a day or 3 nappies a day, because you just be putting back on the nappy because he hasn't wet it. But because you're not putting any pressure on them to have to wear undies, as they get more comfortable with that again, then they're going to they're just going to settle into it, and then you'll go, okay, one day they'll just go, okay, I want undies, and they'll get back into it again. Okay, so make sure that you've got those foundations set so that this is a transition, not something that they get it that they feel like they're being forced into. Okay, now these are your useful links. Now I am going to sit down and I am going to go through a couple of questions here. Okay, so Dan has said daycare said it's a good idea to put undies over the top of nappies as they get ready to toilet train. Should we continue to do this, or is it confusing? I think it's just a layer that is, I just don't think it's necessary, to be honest with you. I think it can be a novelty, and I think if it's something that you do playing dress ups and things like that, then I think that that's fine. But I think that if you're doing undies over nappies, I think it would just be confusing. And that's the other thing, like in the foundation stage, if you guys are having a half a Saturday hanging out at home, you can easily just easily just hang out, play dress ups, put undies on for a couple of hours, and then put nappy back on, and that's fine. Because you know, if they're like pulls out the undies from the dress up box or from the toy box, and they want to put them on, so what? That's cool, and you can put them on over the nappy, or you can take the nappy off if they want to. So we're playing with it rather than it being a big thing. Okay. Now the poos in the little ones that only do poos in the nappies, so around 3.5, only doing poos in the nappy. First thing I would do is I would be absolutely fine with it, and I know that this will feel like a bit of a step backwards, but when he's even showing signs of wanting to go to the poo, instead of even asking him, does he want to go to the toilet, you just say, do you need a nappy? Are you about to do a poo? And then we go and put a nappy on. Okay. And I'll do that for the next couple of days, Louise, just to get the anxiety levels away from the poo first. And then what I'm going to do is, again, we're saying no problem whatsoever. You do your poops in your nappy. That's absolutely fine. But buddy, we do our poops in the bathroom. So let's go into the bathroom, and you can go into the bathroom and do your poops in there, okay? And then you probably do that for about a week. And depending on how much anxiety it is with him, it might go for a little bit longer. It might be a little bit less, but basically we come back, just say, here's your nappy, you're fine, have your nappy. Okay, were you a bit comfortable with that? Okay, you have your nappy, we're going into the bathroom. So you go into the bathroom, there's your toys, there's your books. I'm going to close the door over for you. You call me when you're ready, and I'll come and take your nappy off. Okay, so he's going, okay, you're putting me in there. Why are you putting me in there? Okay, but you're not making me do a poo in the toilet. That's cool. So I'm getting more comfortable with being in the room that I'm supposed to be doing a poo in. Okay, so that's great. So then the next step is going to be, okay, buddy, I'm going to put your nappy on, and you're going to sit on the toilet. Okay, and I'm going to put this little blanket on your lap so that you can do a poo there, but in your nappy. Okay, or and the thing is, kids who don't like the poos will not want to see them. They don't want a big deal made out of it. They don't want to smell it, and they don't want you there go, woohoo, you did a poo. So just, and it's the same for kids who hide. So if your kid is the type of kid that goes behind the sofa or hides in the cubby house, when they're starting to do poos in the toilet, you're like, okay, Billy, come on, hop in, you can go in and do a poo. I'm going to close the door for you, or I'm going to pull it over, and you just call me when you're ready, because they don't want you to see. They don't want to have that poo party. Okay, so just being aware of that. But for this little one who doesn't like to do the pose, I would then that next step would be on the toilet in his nappy, and that he's got a little blanket or something over his lap. Okay. Then the next little trick is going to be, and I know this seems like a really waste of nappies, but I cut a hole out of the bottom of the nappy and put the nappy on. Okay, because it's like his little safety guard. Okay, so I put the nappy on, and I put the towel on, and then he sits in the toilet. And again, this can take days, or it can take a month or two, or it can take 3 months. But I have seen kids that are 7, 8, 9 with impact, like with major bowel problems, because they've been holding because the pressure's been there. So if it takes you an extra month or so, that's okay. It does not matter. The idea is that we're helping him to feel there is no pressure. Mummy's okay with whatever decision I make about whether I make the decision that I want to do it in my nappy or in the toilet. But you know, when he does it in his nappy, in the toilet, and we hear it going in the water, and you might just stay outside the room, or if you can stay in the room with him, it's like, and not too excited, but it's like, did you hear that? You did it. It's in the toilet now. And that's really good, isn't it? How did that feel? Wasn't too sore, was it? No. Well done. Mummy's really proud of you. Do you want me to take your nappy off now? Yeah. Okay, come on, let's go take your nappy off. Okay. Do you think we can do that next time? And we'll do it next time, we do it next time. And then it's like, do you think that we can get on and I'll put the blanket on? And we'll see if you can do it without the nappy. And hopefully that transition will happen for him. Okay. Is that helpful, Louise? I'm not sure if she's still here. That's fine. Okay. Next question is, I know there was somebody here direct. I've read that they need to have solid poos before they start. Our 3-year-old doesn't have solid poos. Trying to get it fixed. It's best. Yes, it's best if they have formed poos. I haven't really thought about this too much, but my daughter, I don't think, had solid poos until she was about 6. So and there was nothing majorly wrong with her. There was nothing that they could see, but we've got a history of Crohn's in our family. So she never had majorly solid poos. I had no dramas with toilet training. They still get that sensation. And if it's not solid, but it's still like she's able to go at a consistent time, they're able to kind of do the bulk rather than it being like diarrhea where they kind of don't have that much control over it. I don't see why there's any reason not to be able to. So talking about loose and constipation as well, which is a good thing. So the brat for helping kids who are a bit loose. So the brat foods, banana, rice, apple, and toast. They're the things that will help them if they've got gastro, if they've got a bit of a runny poo. If you've got somebody who is getting a bit constipated because they're holding poos, try and put chia seed in each of their meals. So I like chia seed is a lubricant. Like we all know what chia does with the pods. Okay, so I would generally just sprinkle even some dried chia into their breakfast cereal in the morning. I don't necessarily need to soak it. And then the chia, if you're just putting it into their mixed veggies at nighttime or something like that, that can really help to soften the poos, but lubricate them coming out so it doesn't hurt and it's not cramping or anything like that. So I love chia. I love psyllium husk is fantastic, but psyllium husk is just, I don't really like taking it, so it's a pain in the bum. Obviously, we've got apples, pears, prunes, but I just find chia for toddlers. Chia is probably the easiest one that you're going to get into them a bit consistently, and just putting some pear, maybe doing some pear juice with them as well. If they are particularly constipated, I would talk to your doctor about Coloxal or some sort of a stool softener, and be aware that you need to be about 4 days ahead of the game with constipation. Okay. People will go, oh, give him Coloxal. Okay, doctor said give him Coloxal, give him Coloxal, give him Coloxal. Okay, she's gone for a poo. So we don't give him Coloxal. And then the next day they don't poo. And then the next day they don't poo. And then the next day we give them Coloxal. And then the next day we give them Cloxel. And then the next day they've got this really hard bit of poo at the beginning and the soft poo coming behind it. So what I tend to do is if you've got a little one who is constipated, you need to make sure that you don't just stop and start with things like Cloxel if they're on stool softeners. You need to wean off it slowly. So if you've got the poos happening, then you might do a third of a dose until the next poo. Assess the next poo. Then you might do a third of a dose again. Assess the poo. And one until they're relatively regular themselves. Make sense? Awesome. Now, let me just check other questions. So we've answered the question about the potties, which is great. When setting the yes, I answered that one. We've answered the one about the toilet training at 9. So generally they'll end up doing that themselves. I've answered that. Tips for when there's a younger sibling who's still in nappies. I tend to find if you've got the foundations right with the toilet training, they're not going to care about their younger sibling being in nappies because they're going to be the big kids in their undies, but they're going to be so ready for it. Whereas if you're trying to rush them into undies, or if it's especially if they've just had a brand new baby brother or sister, and if that baby brother or sister is getting all of mummy and daddy's attention, especially if they're under 6 months, and this toddler is having to fight for your attention, often one of the things that you will find is that they're babying back or babying down because they're wanting to get mummy's attention from being the baby. Okay, so what you want to do is just give them that little bit of a break because they're just wanting to figure out where they are in this new dynamic. And I would just work on the foundations with them first, and then it can be a special thing when you make that transition. If you go out and you do an outing that's just mum and child or dad and child, and it's the other sibling is at home, and we've gone to buy you your special undies because you're a big kid, and we've gone and we're maybe having baby chinos together, and we just have a special mummy child day so that this is something that's special to her and or him, and they feel that that's their connection with that. Well, not that they feel that that's their connection, but then they're going back into undies or into nappies is going to be less important to them. I hope that makes sense. Okay, is there any other questions? I've got one more question that I can see here, and I've got another one, so just keep hitting me with questions. How do you encourage the poo foundation when you know your toddler is doing a poo but they're refusing to go and sit in the toilet? Did I answer that question, Emily, with the set? I would answer that in the exact same way that I have answered it with if they're refusing to do poos in the toilet, refusing to do poos when they've already transitioned. I would do the same things that I've recommended for that. And that's where the who's poos, who's books and things like that are great. So when they can see books that have like that's what the camel's poo looks like, and that's what the wombat's poos look like, and my daddy does poos, and then we start to normalize that pose, and take it slowly, take it with their lead, watch their timing, watch when they're going away and they're going and hiding at their particular times, and just go, buddy, don't hide behind the sofa. You go hide in the bathroom and you tell me when you're ready. Okay, so that sort of stuff will really help them. Okay. I've got a little one who's quite short for her age. We have a 2-step stool from the picture, and she's good at moving it around, but she can't reach the tap, so put her feet on it. When she sits on the toilet, she's a bit taller. You can try the Kmart ones I've got, or not Kmart, IKEA. I've got a slightly taller one that are wooden. So I would just do a little bit of a search for taller stools, so that you can get her onto the stool. Okay, because if she's showing all the signs of readiness, we don't really want to delay her just because she's short. You can if you can go to Bunnings, and even if you're not very handy, if you're not a very handy husband, you can go to Bunnings and pick out a piece of timber, and you can ask the guys at Bunnings, like, just measure the base of that stool, okay, and then give yourself another 500, 600 on either side, and then get Bunnings to cut you that piece of timber that size. Okay, so that way, then if they cut it, if you maybe need 2 bits underneath just to make the stool that little bit taller, you can do that. There's, like, you know, what I'm thinking of, yes, you can use a 2-step ladder to get her up to the sink, but that's not going to work for your toilet. So you do something like that, so that you can get the stool up that little bit higher. It's not a complete game changer if they can't get their feet on the stool. They just have a preference for getting their feet on the stool. So the same if you think about your high chairs, and we, like so many people, would use the high chairs and use the IKEA high chairs with no footrest. And then, you know, now it's like you've got to use the footrest, because if they're sitting there for long periods of time, it does hurt their legs, and they're just not as comfortable. So it's not a complete game changer if she gets on the toilet. She's quite happy to get up there, get down there, and do her things. But I wouldn't put off toilet training because she's short. Do you take them? No. Do you take them out of daycare? I'm so glad you asked that, Erin. Do you take them out of daycare for the week if you're doing toilet training? Absolutely not. They will be daycare will do exactly the same thing as you're doing. You just say to daycare, okay, we've transitioned her to Andy's, but I wouldn't say, okay, she goes to daycare Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, so I'm going to start her on Monday. I would much rather go, I'm going to start her on Friday. So we've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then on Monday she goes to daycare, and that's fine. Okay, and then daycare will do their days with her at daycare. They are well equipped with it. This is what they do. So don't be afraid of daycare doing their thing, because they'll be fine with her. Okay, but give yourself a couple of days. So pick the timing where you've got a couple of days to focus on it. Okay. Sorry, the person who asked the question about the short child is a handy husband, so that's good. It's funny. I had one husband who actually had to get the handyman to come and drop the cot from the top level down to the lower level, and I was like, "You did what?" He said, "Oh yeah, we got the maintenance guy from the estate to come in and drop the cot." I'm like, "Are you serious?" So I've got no expectations. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Going once? Going twice? Okay, guys, it was fantastic to see you all. I'm going to send you the recording in the morning. It'll be available to you all for about 2 weeks, and then it will be deleted, but you've already got the handbook as well, and you have got your little sticker charts and things like that. If you need it, you can always reach out. You know my details. You can book in for a little routine review with me if you need to. But thanks for joining me today. It was lovely to see you all, and I wish you all the best of luck in your toilet training journey. Well done, guys. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. Take it easy, guys. Have a lovely night. Bye-bye.